the community feel that comes from it, because they will start to lean on each other, because one person will have a success story and all of a sudden the conversation opens up. And generally when like-minded people come in a room, it's like a warm hug. People hug and bring it around, and all of a sudden the person that's just entered the room, who's at that first point, is now all of a sudden part of that journey already and feels probably a little bit more caught in the moment, rather than just like standing on the outside when everyone else already achieved something.
Hey, welcome to the Bodies Built Better podcast. I'm your host, Jackie Tan, and I'm so grateful that you're with me today. This show is about human performance. Now, performance means different things to different people, so it's really important to me that we share all the themes and topics that are science-backed, but also the stuff that's yet to be proven, or there's not so much science around it in the first place. I believe if we can look at all of the things, then we can make better decisions for ourselves, or what is best for us, maybe different things we can try and explore what we can do to get the best out of ourselves. So I go on a journey and chat with incredible people, from athletes to coaches to scientists to authors, so many more, on the best tips, tools, and strategies to help you get the best from yourself and discover your extraordinary potential. And on this week's episode, I was stoked to get to chat with someone who I have heard a lot about, and her name kept coming up on all the extraordinary things that she's doing, and most importantly, the incredible environment that she's created that people get to go to, work out, feel good, and be embraced by an incredible culture that she has created. Her name is Sandy RAU of RAU Form Pilates. This was such a fun conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see, I felt like this was the first time we met, and I honestly feel like we've known each other for so long because everything felt comfortable. We're on the same page, and I was really able to connect with her and her values and philosophies because they're really close to mine, which was really cool because it's so wonderful to see awesome people doing awesome things where they have everyone else's best interest right up at the top of the priority list. So it was really awesome to chat with Sandy. We do talk about her philosophy and her values and why that's played such an important role in creating, but also building her business of very trusted and loyal fans and clients. We also talk about why her studio is a little bit different to the traditional Pilates studios out there. We also cover the mindset, what's important, and particularly what you might not be thinking about, and how we can change or reframe thoughts around fitness, but also what's happening externally in our lives and how fitness and training can play a really important role in our mental well-being as well. This was a super fun conversation. I know you'll enjoy it. This is Sandy RAU. Sandy, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jackie.
Welcome to this
your beautiful
makeshift
little studio. I love it.
I heard about you. I heard about famous Sandy.
Famous? Oh gosh, okay.
Actually, probably maybe 24 months ago now.
24 months ago.
24 months, maybe less. I'm not really good with time, let's be honest. And then from then on, it's kind of like I kept hearing about you. Your name kept popping up. Your work kept popping up through clients. And so I'm just like, who is this Sandy and what is she doing?
I love her. She's famous. Who are these people that are talking about me?
Yeah. So I really admire people who are doing really awesome work and who are out there helping others get the best of themselves, and that sounds exactly what you're doing. So here we are. Sandy, to let everyone know kind of a bit of background on you
Yes.
and why you're so awesome.
Well, I'm glad people think I'm awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and your journey into fitness?
It's very interesting that you say that. I actually I didn't start out in fitness. I started out I grew up in Berlin, Germany, and I didn't want to go to university there. So hence I came over and did a backpacking year with my sister. And that sort of led into kind of traveling, cruising around the world, not doing really anything professionally. But then when I came back, I went back to Germany for 6 months, and then I sort of went, oh no, I rather like Australia. So we went back to Australia, decided to study here, but I went into science and was going to do marine biology or some kind of biology or some kind of science, nothing to do with fitness at all. But behind the scenes, I've always been active. I did ballet for 15 years.
Oh,
I did
wow.
jazz, tap, hip hop. I danced, and I did a bit of running. And then, and then I sort of, university wasn't for me. Funny enough, my sister stuck at it, and she works for UniSA. Shout out to her. So she was the smart one of the family. So I kind of gave up my study pretty early on, and I did, and then I went into retail, hospitality, did fashion. I studied fashion design and worked as a fashion designer for a bit.
Wow.
I would totally different, I know. And then that wasn't my true passion either. It didn't really take off either. And then I don't even remember how exactly, if I bumped into someone who did fitness, but then I thought, why not all this exercise that I do outside of my work life? I sort of just wanted to then figure out whether or not I could turn fitness into something. And then I became a PT. And from PT, I met someone who, you know how as a personal trainer, you have to do a bit of a practical stint or like a placement sort of type scenario. And I met this woman she had the most craziest energy I've ever come across. It's almost like she was shining through just by talking. Like she was just smiling and like warm
that.
And she kind of captured me in a way that she spoke to me. And then she sort of said, oh, you should really come and do your placement with me. And I said, you know what? Actually, that's a great idea. And she was all about women and helping women overcome body images and after having kids. So it was a boot camp, which was designed for mums who have no time. It was an hour of a boot camp session, outdoor fitness. There was a creche attached, so you could drop your child and a trainer would train the mums on the oval or whatever location it was. And I went to see her and I experienced it, and then I decided to open a franchise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I know. I got into a franchise and did it for 4 years at Broadview Oval. And that's sort of like kicked my fitness career off pretty much, I think.
How so?
I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it because I got firsthand to help women figure out how to go back to themselves, as in find themselves again. Because I think the number one thing is mothers especially prioritize everybody else. And then especially new mums, it's overwhelming. It's scary. They lose who they were potentially, or they feel like they lost who they were. So it's very nice to be able to give them that opportunity for even an hour to sort of, I guess, re-energize, refocus, and then be present for their babies and their husbands and anyone else around them.
What was that journey like in terms of working with mums and you witnessing that sort of transformation?
Absolutely. I got to say, having also my sister join my boot camp as well, watching her do it firsthand, being a first mum, it's actually really heartwarming to see someone go from not believing in themselves or as seeing themselves worthy enough to do something. Because as you know, bodies change and the discomfort, or they feel uncomfortable in their own skin. And it's really nice to empower someone to be able to go, you know what, who cares? Just let's start one step at a time, get you where you feel good about, not just physically, but mentally better about yourself, and then you function better in everyday life. So I think that was probably the best thing that it's it's touching, and it's kind of motivates you to do more of it.
Yeah.
You want to get more people to do what others have achieved more and more. And what I love even more is the community feel that comes from it, because they will start to lean on each other, because one person will have a success story and all of a sudden the conversation opens up.
Yeah.
And generally when like-minded people come in a room, it's like a warm hug. People hug and bring it around, and all of a sudden the person that's just entered the room, who's at that first point, is now all of a sudden part of that journey already, and feels probably a little bit more caught in the moment, rather than just like standing on the outside when everyone else already achieved something.
Yeah. That's so lovely. And it's so important to have that community feel and feel like, going into a place for the first time and really being embraced and seeing the outcomes that everyone else is getting, and knowing that, once upon a time they stood where they are in that moment.
100%.
So what was the journey from there? Because I know that's not where you've stayed. You've got your own business, very successful, but still very new.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey into
Reform. Look, the bootcamp franchise, sadly, as most franchises, the support wasn't there in the end. So I got bigger and bigger, but financially I couldn't sustain. It cost me more money to keep it running. So I had to let it go. But parallel, I kept the clientele. So I kept the bootcamp going without the franchise attached. But then I needed a job elsewhere. I couldn't live off the bootcamp that I had run. So I then ended up at a studio. I started to look into different qualifications. So I did bootcamp PT, and then I sort of dived into the reformer Pilates and mat Pilates world. And that's how I got a job at a studio in the city. And then did reformer Pilates for the next, I slogged away there and sort of became a manager, semi-manager / in charge of some of the studios there. And then, I went from studio to studio, helped some other places open up their businesses. And then I just sort of, all this time, working for other people is lovely, but there is always that sort of a feeling of, it's not me, it's not my dream. I can see how you do things, but I want to do more. I want to do better. I want to do different. I love who I work with, and I love what I learn from them, because experience being around other trainers and being around other people is one of the greatest gifts and greatest experience that you can take. Hence, and then this studio actually fell into my lap. It wasn't actually planned at all. I wasn't actually ready. Funny, yeah. I was not ready. It all happened over a phone call, and I've sort of just opened up my mouth and said, sure, why not? This person was actually they were looking for somebody like a business, like a fitness personality. And I said, oh, but I'm not a franchise. I'm not anything that you think of. And he sort of just said to me, oh, well, are you a sole trader? Would you do it as a solo operator? I said, and I didn't even think. I just answered. I said, yes. And he goes, oh, well, do you want to come have a look at the space? And I went, yes. Yeah, this is pretty much, I spoke before I thought, and I was pretty much overwhelmed by the idea. And I just went to see this person and looked at the space. And this guy was so excited. So my current landlord, he was super excited. He's like, wow, you sound like you have a vision. Because I walked around the room, and if you see the studio, if you saw pictures from now and how it was, it's a total transformation. So I walked into a room, so old office space, so it's very much brick walls everywhere. You couldn't see a fitness space in it. But as we're talking, I kept saying to him, oh, if we take these walls out, if we do this, that's how I see it. And he was like, okay, fine. And next, probably within a week, and I haven't, mind you, nothing was signed, nothing. Within a week, he called me and said, oh, Sandy, you have to come back. I've knocked the walls down. Yeah, I had not signed anything. I had not committed, but he's gone ahead. And so obviously must have saw the vision and has gone ahead. I mean, at the same time, I think he secretly sort of went, oh, well, if I knock the walls down, whoever comes along, it will be a bigger space to show off to.
Mm.
And someone
Yeah.
else would have potentially looked at it and gone, oh, yeah, that's a great space. And from there, then the next phone call was, what flooring would you like? What wall? It was all very bizarre. It was a real bizarre feeling to be having not signed anything, but actually building a space. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was incredible. It's actually incredible. Like, I would love to show you some pictures. It was absolutely incredible.
That's so awesome to have someone who really trusts your vision and be like, let's do it.
I absolutely loved his confidence and he's a landlord for crying.
Yeah.
He was just a stranger really, and he had, I mean, all the talk when I put the floor plans down, it was for him to be like, okay, I can see it. I mean, plus we have a beautiful, his son owns a coffee shop downstairs. So his vision was probably,
Okay.
coffee shop
Yeah.
fitness works really well.
Makes
It's a little
sense.
community feel where if people exercise, they go have a cup of coffee. I can help their business. They help my
Exactly.
business. So I was very much open to the idea of reconnecting or
Yeah.
connecting those two together, because most people do have coffee and exercise together.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Got our
Or maybe
coffees.
not coffee, but maybe something.
So,
'Cause,
that's so awesome. So
yeah.
then when did you eventually sign a contract, and how long did that take to then from that moment to opening
The studio.
Reform?
Well, Reform had an interesting start. I always refer to Reform like, I feel like it's like a little baby that needed to learn how to crawl and then walk, and now it's that, I think it's walking and it's not running quite yet, but it's kind of, I feel like it's a real big baby. We had an interesting start, so finally then from there, the floor plans, and we started to paint, to build, and so forth. But then the kicker is when you open a business like that, council gets involved. And because it was a change of use, so council, my landlord said, oh, look, keep building. We'd put the forms in with the council, and that was a risky choice, because if council would have vetoed it, it wouldn't have gone ahead.
Yeah.
So we kept building, and I kept going, oh my God, is this a great idea? Because money-wise, we invested a lot. We had equipment, and he kept saying to me, oh, just make sure you keep it on a download. Don't have people come up yet, because if council sees the signs up, or we can't put signage out yet. It was very like, there was a phase for a while where we had to keep it a little bit quiet, in the sense that council, we had to wait for council approval. And then turned out we thought it was going to go smooth, but then council came back and said, oh, this property is actually zoned half commercial, half public, or half, it's like I forgot the name of it, it's a particular word, half residential, half commercial.
Right.
What that means is you have to go out for a public vote. You have to put a sign up and allow the public to vote whether or not you can have a business or not.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I had to put a sign out it had to be up there for 7 days for people to walk past, scan the QR code, and have their say whether or not they're happy for me to. Yeah.
Did people actually do that?
Sadly, yes, we have. Sadly, we had people veto me. Yeah, which were business people, funny enough, because there's a car park there. There's been car park issues for 30 odd years, and the businesses are in and around it. They all share the same car park. So part of it was every time someone new comes, so a new business opens up in the area, car parking is a bigger issue. Someone will complain about it, and it will go to that. Apparently the cafe had the same ordeal when they opened up. So I was semi-prepared for it, that we're going to have. I didn't think anyone would go through the length of vetoing it, but the businesses that sort of sit a little bit further away from us sort of had a bit of a complaint. Consequently, when it only takes one person to complain for you to have to go in front of a panel meeting.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we had to go in front of a panel meeting, which all of this stopped trade. So by that stage, the lease was signed. By that stage, the studio was pretty much good to go. I started doing one-on-ones and two-on-ones, because I was like, I got to pay my rent. If I don't do anything, and while I'm waiting. And then the panel meeting came, and that was the biggest joke we ever. So landlord was kind enough, he came with me. because what it is, you sit in front of 11, I think it's about 11 people, and they hear your case, and anyone that's vetoed is supposed to show up and claim their case as well. Now, sadly, or well, lucky now, the people that vetoed didn't even show up. So we sat there for half an hour. For the council people just shake their head and go, we don't know why we're here.
Yeah.
And so it was like literally half an hour. They read all the complaints because I had to tick the box, and then they all went, well, we approve. Good luck. Best of luck, Sandy.
Wow. And that was it.
That was it. I know. So, which delayed my opening probably by 3 months.
Wow. Gosh. That's a long time
It's
when
a
you're
long
having to
time.
pay for rent.
It was a long time. I mean, the landlord came to the party, so it was okay.
Yeah.
But it
that's
was a long
good.
time to be dragged through something. So I applaud any business owner, anyone that tries and deals with council. Good luck to you.
Mm.
But look, we're here, right?
Exactly,
I did
you're
it.
here.
We wound off with the bang. So literally a month later, we had a big opening, a big party, a big opening party, and then haven't looked back.
Like I said at the beginning, I've got a lot of people who see you, who go to RAW form. So I'd really, and they just rave about you. And these are people who have gone to other Pilates studios, who do other forms of fitness as well, and just love what you do. So,
which is very lovely.
Let's
I haven't paid them to say anything.
You don't even know who I'm talking about.
I don't.
What is your philosophy around training and around fitness, and how have you brought that? Because obviously that comes through the work that you do. So
my philosophy is what I like to do, or how I like to approach is I want to get to know the person that walks in the door. Nothing to do. I don't actually ask them questions about fitness. I actually just want to know who they are, why they've come. And from that foundation, from understanding why and who they are, that builds the fitness platform to me. Because most people don't necessarily come because they want to lose weight, or they want to be stronger, or they want to be able to do push-ups on their toes. They actually come, some people just come to escape their day-to-day life. You know, they wanted 45 minutes of just peace and quiet, or they want 45 minutes to switch off and not think about family drama or what they have to do for the rest of the day. So my philosophy is really actually I want to get to know the person that's behind and help them overcome not just not fitness struggles necessarily, but just life. I think fitness is very much life, or fitness is very much what we go through. I think you can compare what we go through in life as well as in fitness. I think they're very much one and one.
Yeah.
Because how we approach fitness, a lot of us approach that's how we approach life.
Yeah.
Right? When it comes to motivation, when it comes to doing things, or time, effort, thought process, how you talk to yourself. The one thing I do with clients as well, I have a real thing about how do you communicate to yourself. You would never say the bad things you talk to yourself about, you would never say to your best friend. If your best friend said something bad about herself or himself, you would never speak to them how you would speak to yourself. And that's a big thing, because talking to yourself in an ugly way or in a negative way has such a big effect on everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love this quote, and I found it on your Instagram, so I don't know if it's from someone or it's something that you've said. The discipline required to work out on a regular basis is like life itself. You have to show up for it to work.
No, that's me.
That's all you.
That was all me, yes. And that's pretty much exactly what I live by, I guess, or what I'm trying to teach people is showing up for yourself. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I always say to people, being the trainer, I feel like I give people the tool. I give them the space and the tools, but what they do with it is literally individualized. So how much effort you put into something is entirely you.
Yeah, it's on you.
You know, me saying, hey, pick up that particular equipment and do X, Y, Z. How you do it and how much effort you put in it, that is entirely your choice.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and I love that, because you're then giving them back the power for themselves and that responsibility, which is an interesting thing and probably a topic for another time. But like having the responsibility and taking that accountability for yourself and how you show up and who you are when you show up, how much effort you put in. Yeah, it is all on the person in that moment.
Correct. And I think one thing not to forget, we all have bad days.
Totally.
So I think sometimes just showing up is good enough.
Yes.
You know, sometimes literally just rolling out of bed. I've had people, there's some funny stories. I had people show up in their slippers and their Ugg boots. And I jokingly always say to people, just show up in your pajamas. If your alarm goes off, you roll out of bed and that's what you wear and you can't be bothered changing, walk in. I don't care. I don't care that you don't have active wear on. If pajamas is what you're comfortable in, come on down.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had people with their tops inside out, their pants inside out because they got dressed.
I do that on a normal day.
Yeah. So it's not a fashion parade when you go to exercise. As long as you show up. Sometimes that's all it is. Trying to get out of bed. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I love that.
How many times do you turn the alarm off and go, no, thank you.
Another 5 minutes.
5 minutes never works.
I know, because then there's another 5 minutes.
Correct.
And another 5 minutes.
5 minutes is never a good time.
About 40 minutes later of 5-minute alarms. Probably get up now.
You never leave the house.
I want to know a little bit more. We're going to get into, the way you train and the environment that you provide for your clients a little bit deeper. But before we do, I'd really love to know so you've been through Pilates and I know you've done all sorts of different trainings as well, boxing and weight training. Like how have you, and when all of the things, did you decide that you wanted to provide a space where it was Pilates, but it incorporated kind of bits and pieces of what like how did that happen for you and why?
Probably the main thing is because fitness to me is not one thing. So I guess for me, fitness is not just Pilates, it's not just weight training, it's not just running, it's not just cardio. So I wanted to figure out how to provide the space and opportunity for people to experience all of it and give them their bodies a bit more of a balanced fitness approach, because I think people get so caught up in certain fads, like Reformer Pilates is quite popular at the moment and everyone thinks that's the only solution to fitness. Also, I think the body needs different elements of fitness to function better. And I think people get caught into a bit of a trap and think, sadly, there's a bit of stigma behind your strength training and your cardio workouts as well. People are afraid and scared. I had a lot of feedback, people going, I don't like gym environments. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm going to hurt myself. No one's watching me. So all of that combined, that was one of the biggest feedbacks all the years I've trained. People have always said, I don't like cardio because I don't like running. I don't like weight training because I hurt myself or no one's paying close attention to me. So I wanted to give people the opportunity to relearn and fall in love with weight training and cardio. Way I tried is to build the business so we have 20 minutes of cardio, 20 minutes of strength training. So anyone that's sort of hesitant has opportunity to do a little bit rather than a full 45. So the concept behind the fusion classes is pretty much that, 20 minutes of cardio or 20 minutes of strength training, and then we head over to the reformer side and you get to stretch out and hone on to particular body parts. But generally it's more like people are almost relieved when they get out of the gym area and land on the reformer thinking that is the easy part. Where reformer, anyone that's done reformer Pilates, it ain't an easy part. Yeah. But that was pretty much the reason why I wanted the business to have all facets of fitness in one, to give people reconnect with their bodies, and that they should not be afraid of picking up dumbbells or doing a bit of boxing, right? Because my customer is pretty much, we're going from 16 to 82 or 83 years old.
Wow.
So if an 83-year-old or 82-year-old can pick up some dumbbells, I'm pretty sure we're onto something.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Right?
I love that. And I love how, everyone's getting that part of fitness that they may not like, or they have an idea about or a story about themselves about that thing. And yeah, letting them discover again how incredible their body is and what
Yeah.
they can do.
Yeah, 100%.
I
That was the
love it.
idea behind it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what you offer, because it sounds different to what is out there.
Yeah, so I guess the space was created so we have a reformer space. So there's a part of the studio is kind of set up in two parts. So the first area is a bit of a gym setup. So we do have dumbbells, some kettlebells, some skiers, some rowers, and some boxing bags, which is sort of part of the studio. And then we sort of have a bit of an administration area, and then it goes into the reformer space. So I have kept them apart from each other, just so we have, because we do offer separate. We do have just strength and cardio circuits, which are just in the gym area. And then the other is just reformer as well. And then there is that combination class. So we have all three. So there is, yeah.
Wow.
So there's opportunity for people who just want to do cardio or strength, or
Is
just want to
there?
do
Yeah.
reformer, or anyone that wants to start to transition into one or the other, they have the opportunity as well. So it's pretty much all three aspects are there for someone to pick up and grab.
Yeah. How have you fostered this really inclusive community?
I think like-minded people attract each other. So I think I've seen incredible people walk through the door and they actually inspired me. Like I feel overwhelmed with their warmth, their openness, they trust, like the fact that people trust. I still pinch myself. I still haven't had an opportunity to actually sit there and look at this. Sometimes I look at the sign and go, oh my God, that's my business. It's not actually someone else's business that I work for. But people have embraced each other as well as the studio. And I still, to be honest, I can't actually, it's actually overwhelmed me how the community, how people have leaned on each other, but how strong it is, and how they now go for coffee. They catch up outside of
Oh,
the
I
studio.
love that.
Yeah. They become good friends. And that's what I love about it. It's become more than the studio. The studio is like, I always wanted to, no matter what I was going to do, I always wanted to create a space where people feel at home, and be a home away from home, meaning as in, if they're having a shitty day, if they want to feel like crying, I want them to feel comfortable enough to do that. I want them to walk into the space and straight away feel like they're not on display, or they don't have to be awkward, or they don't have to be, I don't know, uncomfortable with anything. And I think the clientele that has come through have also helped that feeling, because anytime we have new people come through, the current clientele makes them super welcome. There's not one person that I've ever had feel any less or feel awkward or not welcomed in the space. So I think it's big credit to them that what I wouldn't have it. I don't think I wouldn't have that feeling that you're describing or you asked me about without them. Because really the studio is just a shell. With me in it is nothing. With those people in it, that's where the community and that actual feeling of belonging and having another place that you escape to, that's how that I think that's how that festered.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I know you just said you in it is nothing, but you in it, you're the magnet. You've
That's very kind of you to say that.
brought the right people in, right? And you attract, like you even said that, you attract the people that you want to be around. And
Yes.
yes, well done.
Thank you.
Created something really special. Tell me about, is there a client success story that stands out to you? I mean, it sounds like you've just got a whole lot of people who are so incredible. And I think that's, I can certainly relate to that in the sense of, through my years of working with so many clients and, relative to what they're doing in that moment, they're all incredible in what they're doing and what they're achieving. And, the time, energy that it requires of them to put into what it is they're trying to achieve. Is there anything that stands out for you in terms of outcomes for clients or transformations?
Oh, yeah. For me, I think, yes, and you're probably 100% right. There's a lot of them, like a lot of incredible stories and a lot of individual inspirational stuff that I've seen, and I've still probably see a lot of them. I mean, no, there's there's a few people obviously that come to mind that it's an incredible achievement in regards to over a short period of time, because the studio's only been open for 12 months, 12 months, maybe a bit longer than that. So people have achieved, we're talking over 100, 200 classes in a year, which is insane. Like they pretty much live with me. They're almost like moved in. But the transformation, not just physical, but things that they haven't. I've had a lady, she had some hip issues and some glute issues, and now she can do things that she wasn't able to do. Little things like that, being able to, for someone to be able to do push-ups, they weren't able to do them, now they can. Someone had a massive weight loss transformation, over 20 kilos in a short period of time. There's so many stories, and I don't even know which one stands out, because I think individually they're unique and they're special because of, even if it's a tiny one, but it took that person so much hard work and so much effort to actually get to that tiny change. That, to me, yes, big weight loss is always, everyone talks about them, but I feel like the tiny changes are sometimes even more profound, or they make someone totally change their life.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point to make. And I know you don't mean tiny as in insignificant.
No,
it's those,
as in like a small goal.
And I think that's so important to say, because it's those smaller ones along the way that compound and really build. And when you can get all those, mini goals in between and, see those outcomes and results, it creates, I guess, this snowball effect of, that motivation and that momentum of, what's next and what else can you achieve. And it just shows you that there's so much more that can be achieved. And, obviously dependent on what you're setting out to achieve. Like it could just be that, showing up every day
it could be the goal.
Yeah. And I know for me, that's certainly a lot of the times. Just get out of bed and show up, Jackie.
Just show up.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Yeah, that's a win.
100%. I think that's sometimes underestimated, how that is a goal in itself.
Huge. What's a proud moment for you?
Proud moment in my fitness?
Yeah. Well, fitness in this entire journey.
Probably just having the guts and the confidence to actually open the studio. I may not come, I don't know, I don't know if people think I'm a very confident person, but I don't actually believe in myself as much as people probably would like me to. I probably believe in other people more, and I think it's really hard sometimes to be that person, to be like, I'm super proud of this, because it's almost like I don't take credit for these things a lot. So that proud moment for me is actually having done it, because I probably didn't think I would, or I probably didn't think I would ever have that business or have the doors opened. That's probably it. Yeah.
Is this the first time you're acknowledging this?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, really. It's pretty much, yes. I haven't actually had a moment outside the studio to sit and have that conversation with someone, really.
Well, let's have the conversation,
Thanks,
shall we?
Thanks for putting me on the spot like that. Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Why don't you spend the time to look back and reflect on everything that you've achieved?
Because I probably would get too emotional, to be honest. I think
what's wrong with that?
I don't know what's wrong with that. I don't know. Probably vulnerability. I guess being sharing the emotions that stand behind it. Probably. See, I'm doing it now, and I can't hold it back. Yeah,
that's okay though. No, I mean,
let's not cry here. Yeah,
you're like, I'm not here to cry.
You're like, no, why does she come here? Yeah,
I'm totally the same.
Yeah,
and I know it's so important that we acknowledge everything that we've achieved, and also all the hardships that we've endured to get to where we are, because, it takes a really strong and brave, courageous person to go through all of the crap, because business isn't easy.
No.
And then to come through the other side and have a business that people call home, that, you know, they spend probably just as much time there as they do at their work and as they do at home. I mean, that's a really special thing that you've built, and you should be celebrating that.
Mm. Yeah. See, I celebrate them, I think, and I think that's part of it too. And you're right. I should be celebrating with them, not just them.
And you're worthy of celebrating you.
It's very nice, Jackie. Mm.
It's truth.
It's truth. Here she goes. Have you had your proud moment yet?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. How about we fire the question back at you?
Yeah, you're on my podcast.
You're like,
get your own.
I love it. You're like, I'm not answering that. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, see, I knew you're going to dodge that question.
Okay, so then it's I mean, it's really
It's
interesting.
thrown you
though.
now, hasn't it? Because you're feeling the same way about it.
Well, I mean, coming back to that self-belief and that self-worth and being worthy of celebrating those beliefs, or wins. How, I know you said you celebrate everyone else. So then tell me about how you, I guess, again, come back to that fostering. You've fostered that community and that sense of embracing everyone. What about like the mental side of things and the that self-belief in oneself? Where does that, I guess, that mental side, that mindset come into it? Is that something that you've brought into the studio to help people kind of forget about, you know, all the external pressures, all of the things that are happening outside of themselves, and really connect with what's happening on the inside?
Yes, definitely. We do spend a bit of time. We've just recently added a class actually that will focus a bit more on that. But in each class, we sort of allow time to stretch and sort of have 5-10 minutes either before or after to do exactly that, to just be still, or like to just allow people to just sort of zone out, relax, forget about any stresses they may have had in the day or the week, and allow them to just be present without, you know, letting go of, pretty much just letting go of the stress and be okay with, I guess, having done enough for the day, and that's it. You know how sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by, I need to do this, I need to do that. Maybe today is enough. You know, you've done enough for today. Tomorrow is another day. So I guess allowing people to. We had actually funny that you say that, because we had a chat the other day. I had two clients come in the afternoon, and we just spent half an hour talking about one particular lady's external problems, because she'd been bullied at work, or she had a really ugly situation at work where someone made her feel very less worth of who she is, and it was very uncomfortable for her, and she took it too hard. And it took us to kind of sort of convince her that everyone is worth it, and that she needs to stand up for herself in that situation and be strong and be assertive that no, this is not okay. But it's really hard to do when you get into that position, because a lot of people, when you are being bullied or when you're being caught out, the first instinct is always to either retract and pull away from it and deal with it later, or try and defend yourself and react and get really defensive and emotional about it, when it's really hard. None of us really know how to sometimes step back, take a moment, breathe, think about it, and then respond. So we sort of said to her, and she was very angry. Like she said to us, "Oh, I feel very angry." And I said, "Oh, why are you angry?" And she's probably more angry because she didn't have the opportunity to respond how she wanted to respond.
Yeah.
And then it came into the physical side. I said to her, "Look, if you don't get the opportunity to respond, two things you can look at it. You can let it go, or you can step over here, punch the boxing bag, and exert the energy that you didn't get out in a physical way." Because funny thing about exercise, when you don't find the words, you could find the punches, right? You can find the movement that allows your body to let go of anger, frustration, depression, whatever it may be. how endorphins is not, this word endorphin and dopamines has not been thrown around for no reason, right? They do exist, and they do come from moving the body and making you feel better. So when I'm sure as a trainer, for sure that when you tell your client, you'll feel better after you've done it, and most clients will go, no, yeah, is not true. But actually, in matter of fact, it is. And it does make people feel like they can take it back on. So once they've done the exercise, they actually feel better.
Absolutely.
And it does tie in with the mental health part.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to let it out.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants to hear not everyone wants to hear the problem, right? So a lot of times we spend in our heads thinking about the problem, right?
Absolutely.
And it's fair. I mean, it's really fair enough. I mean, how many times you walk along to someone and just share it? You wouldn't necessarily. And this is another thing I think what this business has created is that it allowed people to open up to a stranger. And I love that because I feel like we don't share a lot of stuff with even the people we love.
Yeah.
Right? We hide away from them, but allowing to share stress and emotions or trouble with a stranger, and that stranger catching that person up rather than dissecting or lecturing or giving advice, is just an opportunity to listen. And I think that's what I love about what we have at RAU is we actually have people who they catch each other or they support each other without asking, and I love that. I absolutely love strangers helping strangers without question.
That's so beautiful. And I even love that analogy, catching each other.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And you're so right. And I've experienced this myself in terms of, things not going right. You're holding all the emotions, and it's not until you move that you can really let go a lot of that stuff. And it does make you feel better. It makes you feel lighter. But I guess most importantly, it also gives you the chance to get clear on what it is that you're thinking and how you could potentially approach the situation. So, yeah, movement and punching things.
Yeah, I know that
in a safe and monitored environment.
Yes, because let's not encourage that violence part. Yeah, no. If you see the studio, they're punching bags. They're not actual people. Yeah,
we're trained professionals.
Yeah. We don't just go around punching people. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd really like to know then what your definition of success is, and we can take that in the context of health and fitness, but then I guess I'd love to know overall what your definition of success is.
That's a very big question. You realize that, right?
Yes. Take your time.
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Exactly. To be continued.
Yeah. No, I think what success means is, well, it's a tough one because it could be so many different things. Success could be waking up in the morning, right? Like getting out, like actually taking a breath and being alive is success, because how many people don't get that opportunity to wake up and do, go about another day. I guess success in the health and fitness content, again, it could be basic stuff, putting your sneakers on and actually committing to your walk, your run, your, actually committing to yourself that you're actually going to do. That's success. I guess fitness and health is such a funny thing about the commitment or the success lies in committing to yourself, as well as the journey that's ahead is not just success is not one thing. I think success is the journey that gets you there. So every day is kind of like you could make it a success story, so that's, to me, one day or one particular thing is not it. That's how I look at it. Yeah,
I love that. So the success is the journey as well as the outcome.
Correct. Yes.
It's the whole shebang.
Yeah, the whole shebang. And it's a bit like that, like how you painted it, it's just perfect. Because I think that's another thing that needs to be said is the journey or the road to success is never smooth. It's never one straight
linear
line. If it was, I think we'll be billionaires and we'll be doing not what we do now. Because I think another thing is learning, right? Learning all the way along, learning from mistakes. I think people need to
Screw up more.
Screw up more. Yeah, I agree. That's a very good thing to say. Stuff up more. Literally make mistakes. Learn from them. I think you and I probably wouldn't be where we are now, or we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't make mistakes and did not go, hey, that's not a mistake. It's actually where this is where my biggest lesson was.
Yeah.
Right? People, whether or not people that you've met or people that I've met, who've put little rocks in your path, and they kind of made them so almost impossible to move at some point potentially. But then somehow you found that strength inside going, you know what, that ain't going to stop me from doing something different. Or, hey, thank you for that lesson, because now you make me want it more, or you want me to push harder. You want me to lift that stupid rock out of the way even harder to get to somewhere else and meet potentially people like yourselves, where we have more like-minded people along the way that are helping us. Because I think surrounding yourselves with people who are similar mindset, who don't judge, who just support, or who just there to almost give you another boost to go further, right? Rather than the other way.
Yeah.
So I do think mistakes are definitely, or should definitely, not be overlooked. Or you should make mistakes.
Yeah.
You should stuff up.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you could say that could also be something where, you know, you're taking the risk, but you're putting the trust in yourself and your capabilities and everything that you know in order to move forward. And if the mistakes happen, then that's
okay too.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's how you, exactly like you said, how you learn from that mistake, what you take from it. Yeah.
You thought of something then?
I did, but I mean,
I thought
there's so many tangents
go
on. But yeah, I think it's so important. And it's actually something that I still am, you know, managing to this day, not looking back at whether you call them mistakes or whether you call them experiences that didn't go your way, however you want to say it. Yeah, it can be scary to reflect back on
100%.
and see where you took a wrong turn or could have done something better, because that's also taking accountability for yourself and for the decisions and the choices that you've made, which can be a really vulnerable and scary thing.
100%.
Because we don't all just want to go, yep, I made a mistake. We don't see that as success.
Yeah, correct.
So owning up to that is super important. And yeah, mistakes are worthy of your time as well.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you there.
There's this really cool, here's a tangent for you. There's this really cool video. I think it was Salma Hayek who was talking about mistakes. And the way she said it was so awesome, and she was so passionate. She was just like, own them. They're your mistakes. Be proud of it. Because
be proud. It's like any other ownership. Just take it. Yeah, own it and wear it.
Yeah, wear it. It's yours. Don't let anyone. Oh yeah, exactly. Which sounds way better than how I'm explaining it right now. And I'm not about to try and put on the accent either.
Come on,
but yeah, give it a go.
Come on, give it a go. Yeah, no, we've gone on a different
lots of tangents.
Yeah.
What is something, person in Adelaide right now, listening to this, going, I think I might like to try this ruffle.
This crazy lady, yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to them?
Have a shot at it, really. Welcome. Come and try, right? Better yet, what do you got to lose? Nothing. If anything, I would say empower yourself to try something. If you stuck, if you feel like you don't belong, if you feel like you've gone to different places and you're just walking around the gym floor and pottering around and think you know what you're doing, but you don't actually know what you're doing and you're wasting time, come and let me teach you, I guess. Come and let me help you. Let me help you figure it out, whatever it is. Yeah.
Amazing. With the last question, I always like to, not always actually, something new that I've tried. I said always. I like the guest to ask a question of the listener, because I think whilst I can come from my lens and my perspective of what's important to be shared, I also think that, your experience through life and business and health and fitness is obviously way different to mine. So I like the guest to ask a question to the listener about, something that you think is important to think about, maybe important to, whether it's a habit that they try to adapt. But what question do you have to this listener who has just heard your story? And, what's important for you? Do you think is important for them to be thinking about and asking themselves today?
Probably the biggest question I would ask them would be why not them, or why not you, if that makes sense, is probably the biggest question they should ask themselves. Why not?
That just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's probably the biggest question, the only question, really.
Amazing.
Yeah. Why not? Why not you? Yeah.
That's sensational. Sandy, this is the first time we've ever really met and face to face, and I feel like we're the same person.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a bit weird, huh? Other than the coffee part, let's not share that one. And maybe we should have left that recording in the coffee part story, I think.
Oh, the coffee dramas we've had this morning. Oh, they're not dramas.
No,
just trying to figure out.
It's an interesting story
for next time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
That was Sandy RAU of RAU Form Pilates. If you are in Adelaide, or maybe you're not from Adelaide, but you're traveling to Adelaide for a day or two or a week, head over to RAU Form Pilates. There's going to be a class for you and there's going to be a time for you. I will make sure that all of those details are in the show notes so you can check out her incredible studio. If you enjoyed this episode, I would so appreciate a like on YouTube and subscribe, and also subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. All of this really helps to continue to get the podcast out to those who are like-minded, like you, like me, who are really interested in human performance and exploring all the holistic approaches to what that could mean. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Have the best day, week, month, and year. Stay awesome. We'll catch you next time.